Hello there and welcome. Targeted advertising, third-party cookies, data, privacy. Remember all that stuff? There's been so much news about artificial intelligence over the last couple of weeks that we've kind of forgotten that we're almost exactly a year away from third-party cookies going away. Maybe. We'll see about that. But over the last week or so, Google reminds us, yeah, we're still working on all that stuff, that targeted advertising, third-party cookie data thing. And they've run some experiments. And the results, well, they're meh. Want to know more? This is 5 minutes of what you need to lead in marketing. Let's roll. Hello everybody, Robert Rose here with the news. It is, as you know, what's new, but more importantly, it's what's important in the world of marketing. And for the best and best practices and content, you can always get on over to contentmarketinginstitute.com. Well, that third-party cookie thing, it just does not seem to be crumbling the way we thought it might. It's hard to believe it, but Google has been punting on this issue since 2021. It announced then that it would end support for third-party cookies in the Chrome browser in 2022. Then in 2022, it went, nah, we still don't have a replacement yet. Let's wait until 2024. And now, well, there may be yet another delay. We'll see about what comes of all of that, but recent data provided by Google is saying that they've been running experiments on what they've been calling the Privacy Sandbox. Now, this is a set of proposed tools that would allow advertisers to tap into an anonymous, mostly anonymous that is, aggregated set of internet data to target ads against. You see, Google has been working on something that it called FLEDGE, which stands for First Locally Executed Decisions Over Groups Experiment, maybe the most Google name ever. Anyway, FLEDGE was basically a 5-component system. It would take too long to explain here, but ostensibly it puts users, meaning you and me, into interest groups in a sandbox based on our content consumption. Then, advertisers can target against these groups, topic interest groups as it were, instead of individuals as a way of targeting advertising. Now, Google launched FLEDGE last year, and basically the ad world, meaning the supply side, meaning mostly those who work with publishers to sell advertising, went, nah, this is not that great. So in response, Google has worked on FLEDGE to evolve it, and now it's called the Protected Audience API. Why didn't they just add the language of internet natural generator to get Ling, and then they could have called it FLEDGE-Ling, FLEDGE-Ling. See what I did there? Anyway, I digress. Now, if all this talk of FLEDGE or FLEDGE-Ling or Data Privacy Sandbox or Protected Audience API is making your head spin like it did mine about what all this means and where the data goes and where it all works, welcome. There's just not a lot of simple clarity around any of this. It's kind of all up in the air right now. But let me break down what happened last week anyway. Over the last week or so, Google announced the results of their experiment using these internet-based audience solutions on how ads performed versus those using third-party cookies. In a word, yeah, once again, meh. As Google relayed, the overall spend, the conversion rate per dollar, as they called it, was down 1 to 3% for the test group. Further, click-through rates, CTRs, decreases, well, they stayed within about a 90% range of status quo. Basically, not any better, not any worse. So, is that good news? I don't know. My take? Well, my take is that while these experiments are showing improvement, yeah, meh, but improvements nonetheless, they are nonetheless also answering the wrong question. You see, we keep asking how this new way of targeting in a privacy-oriented way compared to programmatic targeting of individuals through third-party cookies better. Here's the thing. We all bought into the assumption that targeting from a third-party cookie was better in the first place. We're still working off that assumption. Here's what I mean. Back in 2019, there was research done for the publisher side of the business of advertising. The findings were that cookie-based targeted advertising revenue would increase to the publisher in the whopping amount of, yes, 4%, 0.00008, 800,000ths of a dollar per ad. Now, combine that with research from Dr. Augustine Fu, who is an amazing person, by the way, and you should be reading a lot of his work. They find that while more relevant ads are definitely better, basic stuff like targeting a certain type of publication or content where your target audience would frequent, hyper-targeting based on personal information really breaks down after more than 3 parameters of personal data. So you got to ask, Who's got the interest in getting paid to sell the extra personal hyperdata parameters that makes buying ads more expensive? It's not the publishers. They're not getting the money. Could it be that the big platforms are actually aggregating the data? Google, Facebook. I wonder. Anyway, instead of asking the question of how more privacy-centric ads fare against not-so-privacy targeted ads, why haven't we just asked if targeted ads were really the answer to begin with? Why, as marketers, don't we start running tests of how brand ads, content sponsorships, and other forms of paid media that don't utilize third-party cookies or any third-party targeting, how do they fare? What if we put our targeting efforts into developing our own first-party data efforts so that we might worry less about ad platforms and actually get better targeting and personalization of the content that the ads ultimately link to? Interesting questions. And one I don't suspect Google is going to want to answer anytime soon as they start working out how they can continue to make money off of ads and targeting. More to come on this for sure, but what are you doing with targeted advertising, and how are you dealing with the coming disappearance of the third-party cookie, whenever it comes? I want to know. Let me know in the comments, won't you? But for now, that's it. That's 5 minutes of what you can use to lead in your marketing. I'm Robert Rose, and remember, as always, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. I'll see you next week.